Once again, I'm here to give an update. So, it is Friday. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. And make sure to click the subscribe button, the notification bell, so that you don't miss a beat and you get all of my content. Welcome to my channel, and I am sharing my Explant journey as well as my life lessons and experiences and what drops in for me, because the more I sit with the idea that my body's about to change, it's a major life change. And if you didn't catch any of my previous videos, change is like death. And we have to honor the waves of emotions that arise, because just like the cycles of the moon, life is constantly evolving, shifting, shaking, and changing. The one constant in life that is dependable is change. So one thing you can rely upon is that life is ever changing and that energy is in constant motion. Hence why energy needs to stay in motion. So when emotions arise, just like the tides and the waves of the ocean, we're meant to ride them, to really harness our breath and really participate in the ride of our life. We're not meant to tense up, seize up, resist, reject, because that creates stagnation and it stops the movement of energy. It causes dis-ease, because ease in itself is emotion. And when an emotion arises within you, you're meant to honor that too, not deny it. That energy needs to stay in motion. And our body in motion tends to stay in motion, and if you don't use it, you lose it. It becomes tense, stiff, tight, sore, painful, because everything needs to stay in motion. Life is practice. You need to keep moving your body, practicing every day in order to keep and stay in motion, to progress in life. Practice makes progress. We're not striving for perfection, because that's a man-made construct. You are perfectly who you are in every single moment. You're perfectly who you're meant to be. And if you consider that you are everything that the divine, that God intended you to be in this moment right here, that should take some weight off your shoulders. That you're not here to prove yourself, despite all of our conditioning, despite all of the ideology of around you were born of original sin, what a lie that is. That when you came into this life, you came here to experience everything in the richness, the fullness, to embody, to be in your body, to engage, embrace, express. Don't suppress, express. What is the opposite of tension, of pain, of anything that creates restriction in your body? It's expression. Because expression comes out of you. Creativity, the life that you were meant to live. We are creative beings. We are made in God's perfect image. And even in my own human experience, I wanted to have certain experiences in my human life, that I came in here with ideologies from a soul level, and then my human added to it, or maybe it was collaborating all the while. See, the mind wants to assume, wants to label, wants to judge, it wants to contrast and compare against others and other situations. And when we do that, we do ourselves a disservice. Instead of always trying to judge things in a right or wrong, this or that, pinning ourselves against ourselves, if you really think about it, we have been trained to not own and embrace all of ourselves, to not be whole, to be polarized against every aspect. That, oh, well, this is right and this is wrong, and we put them in little boxes. And when we do that, we break our own heart. When you judge yourself, you break your own heart. When you judge another, you're judging yourself. Whether or not you realize it, because when you're judging another, you're comparing yourself. It's so subtle, but most people don't tune into it. As you compare yourself, a lot of times you're coming up with oh, I could never do that. Because that's not who you are. You're comparing yourself to another and saying, I could never do that or be that. That's not who I am. Not in the moment, but maybe at some point, that's an aspect of you too that you're denying yourself. And so as you are comparing yourself to another, placing a judgment, comparing, contrasting, polarizing, literally, the opposite of magnetizing is polarizing. So you're repelling. We humans are here to unite, not to repel. But that's part of the conditioning, isn't it? So as we judge ourselves, we're creating more fragmentation in and amongst our being. Our cells are like at dis-ease because the body's always telling on the mind. When there's a misaligned belief system, story, construct, ideology, thought in your mind, the body translates it as, that's not true. I don't resonate with that. And that's when you create discomfort, dis-ease. Your body gets stiff, stuck, stagnant. It manifests the truth. It tells you that's not true. That's why it tenses up. That's why you get these traumas that get stored in the body. Because we hold on to it in the body. We don't realize what all that holding on to is the inability to let go because we're unresolved. It's unresolved. The misalignment in the mind shows in the body as a misalignment. When we are in alignment with our mind, our body falls into alignment. And you feel the fluidity. You feel at ease. And then when you take a deep breath, the energy stays in motion, the motion of the ocean. We ride the breath. And so again, I go back to major life change. It stirs up emotions. Why? Because change, whether known or unknown, familiar or unfamiliar, you sense it before it's actually happening. You feel the trepidations, even before you've made the choice, even before it's thrust upon you. When you are going through major changes, even subtle changes in your life, there is a dying off of all you've known to go through the metamorphosis to be reborn into the new, because you didn't even know what was coming until you knew, right? So the only reason the mind gets stirred up is because it realizes, I don't have any clue what's coming. I don't know what to anticipate, except for I can come up with stories. The only thing I do know is what has happened in the past. And so the mind can only compare and contrast and create the fear, create the, what's happening? The lack of control, right? It can't hold on to, it can't predict, but it can assume, which is usually what gets us all into trouble, right? And if you allow the monkey mind to get out of whack, out of control, essentially what it will do is it will hijack you, and it'll put you in more stress, more the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But when you're in awareness that, oh my gosh, emotions are rising because things are changing in my life. Something I've always known is falling by the wayside. It's dying, whether it's a person, place, or a situation. Death is the letting go of what you've always known. And having faith and trusting in that pregnant pause that whatever is coming is meant for your highest and best good. And it always is. Everything is served up to you on a silver platter. It's just often we tend to poo-poo on it and reject it because it's not what we want or how we want it to look or to feel or to taste, touch, or see. So we really need to be in awareness, because the more we're in awareness, the more we can recognize, oh, that's just my mind freaking out because I really don't have any answer for what's about to happen, what's going to happen, how I'm going to feel, the outcome. So we're waiting for the unknown. And then as you get more familiar, when the unknown becomes familiar, when it's known, then it's less of a discomfort, less of a dis-ease. And that's most often when we all go, oh, see, it wasn't so bad now, was it? I'm still alive, I'm okay, I made it through. And we've all gone through various experiences, many deaths and rebirths in our lives, but we tend to not celebrate or recognize and acknowledge when it happens at the time because we're not present. We're not in the gift of the now. The more we are present, the more the gifts are presented to us. But we have to slow down. We have to honor and acknowledge, oh my gosh, something's coming up. Okay. Tap into your breath. Breathe some. Breathe long, slow, and deep. In order to come out on the other side, you still got to keep breathing, baby. Because if you stop breathing, you're not going to live. You just throw yourself into the death. Like, ultimately. But when it boils down to it, and this is today's theme, by the way, change in personal responsibility. What most people don't want to do is take ownership of the choices they made to arrive to the changes their experiences, because that's personal responsibility and owning your life. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's all the result of the choices you've made. No such thing as a mistake, just choices. Because even when you think you've made a mistake or you think you failed as a result of a choice, there's another choice to make that will take you in a different direction and change the trajectory of your life. So be kinder on your mind. Stop accepting defeat and thinking that you made one mistake. No, you just made a choice, and you can make a new choice, and you can change your choices, because that's the beauty and the gift of this life, that your superpower is your ability to choose at all times, at all times. So it is our moral obligation to ourselves and even to others, but more so it starts with self. Everything starts with self. We have this moral obligation and personal responsibility, because that's what moral obligation is. It's an alignment with your integrity. That to be mindful and aware of why and what it is we are choosing. So when you choose something, you have to be aware. Why are you choosing that? And what exactly are you going to do with that choice? What is the intention behind the why and the what you choose to do? That's powerful when you really sit with it. What is your why, and what will you choose to do with the choice that you make? What is the intention behind it? Are you in alignment with your own integrity? Will you hold yourself personally responsible and accountable to the choice that you make in everything you do? Because you can choose to do something and be half-ass about it, and then as a result, you don't stay true to the choice you made. And this is where a lot of times people don't realize how they shoot themselves in the foot. That you made a choice, you didn't follow fully through. And then other people around you get upset. And the only person who can really get upset is you with yourself, because then you see the fallout. When you are in integrity with the choices that you make and the why and what it is you choose to do with those choices, or the choice that you make, for example, let me see if I can tie this into an example so you can get this a little bit more strongly. And I don't mean just in ignorance too, okay? Because every choice we make is our personal responsibility. We make a lot of choices until we get wiser in ignorance. Well, I'll just do this until something better comes along. Sometimes we take a job because we just need a paycheck. We just need money. This is the best example right here. But are we going to do the job to the best of our ability? Are we going to be in alignment with our integrity and show up to that job fully, 100%? Or are we going to do it from that place of, well, I just need a paycheck. I don't need to really put any work in. As long as I do my part, like I just give enough to get the paycheck, I'll be fine. That's not integrity. And not everybody will own that. And sometimes you hear these conversations, I've heard them many a time, where people take on a position, a role, just to make a buck. That's a selling out of your soul. Because if you're not in full alignment, doing it to the best of your ability, who are you really shortchanging? Because it's an energetic exchange. If you're not giving your all, what makes you think you're getting what your potential is worth? Because if you show up in your all, that can afford you so many more accolades. Maybe even someone sees you if you go all in, which is what life is all about. Not one toe dipped in, kind of like half-ass, like I said. But when you go all in, people see that. People feel that. And those who see and feel it will recognize it. And you may find that when you give it your all, you get more than what you put in, because what you have done now is you have energetically poured into the cup to make it full. What do you think is going to happen when it starts to overflow? There's going to be more for you coming back. You may see yourself getting a raise in your job, a promotion that you'd never even anticipated because you thought, I just wanted a paycheck. Or even still, maybe that wasn't the job you wanted, but as a result of doing that job, someone you meet in that job refers you to a job that you really want, that's actually the path you want to take in your life. But you have to understand that life is serving up on a silver platter. Every opportunity is there for your upliftment, your support, your empowerment, to inspire others through you. So that's where it's so important to recognize the choices and the why in what you do. Because if you are going through life just skating around and then whining about why you're not getting what you want, well, how about this? How are you ever going to get what you want if you're not, number one, asking for it, or number two, showing up to life and showing life what you've got to give to get what you desire? Because it is really an energetic exchange. And your thoughts also attract your experiences. So if you have half-assed thoughts and you think you're getting one over, look at me, I'm not having to work that hard I'm doing pretty good. I don't even have to work hard for this paycheck. That's all gonna come back on you. That's what integrity is all about. That is what wisdom is about. Okay, some of us have actually had some experiences. I can't speak of anything in myself because from a young age, I always went all in. That when I did a job, I went above and beyond, and actually I felt neglected in a lot. And this is my personal experience. Like I've had situations where as hard as I worked, the power of choice is such a powerful concept. I'm serious. I've worked my ass off and made it look easy and then been taken for granted. But that doesn't change the fact that that's just my integrity. It's not my responsibility to have to run around and explain to people, I don't feel you're giving me back what I'm giving. No, in fact, what that has afforded me is 9 times out of 10, where one space I wasn't being appreciated, I still find my way to the people who do appreciate me. And everything's a stepping stone. So where maybe you give too much and you don't get the same in return, the universe still rewards you. So never think that you're forgotten. And if you're the person who doesn't show up full on in with integrity, that life will recognize that too. And you might get shortchanged because you're shortchanging yourself and others. But there's a balance in the universe, and it's brilliant. But it's up to you to own your choices and the what and the how and the why you show up to things. Because most of the times, we think nobody's going to see our shit. But like I tell you, and I speak about in all my videos, own your own shit so nobody can hold it against you. When you know you so well, nobody can pull one over on you. And that is like golden. Because when you own yourself, you own your dark and your light and your good and your bad and all your shit that you've ever done in your life, then nobody can hold it against you unless you let them. Like, are you really that embarrassed about the stupid little things you've done in your life? I'm not. I have no regrets. And that's why I've been sharing my explant surgery and the fact that, they had a good run. I had a good run of 23 years, breasts, boobies. Yay! Celebrate the boobies. I don't poo-poo on anybody who ever wants to have plastic surgery. Everybody's got a journey. Go enjoy your life. But I know the reasons I chose them, and I know the reasons I'm choosing to have them removed. I just hope that by sharing what I share, it makes you consider some choices that maybe you hadn't thought of. So going back to the choices, though, of all choices, nobody makes you choose to do anything. And that in itself, that's kind of like a fire under the ass, because it's like, poke, poke, poke. Nobody forces you. You're the one who chooses. If you think you can pull off that, well, they made me do it. Did they really? You chose to let them bully you or manipulate you. That's a personal responsibility too. You can't play the victim of that one. Yes, even if you're at gunpoint, because the reality is you have to choose. You still have to choose. Oh, I was choosing between life or death, right? That's your choice. That's your personal responsibility. So we can always try to say it was somebody else, but in the end, it's always three back at us. No coincidences, people. Personal responsibility is empowerment. It's the ability to say, you know what? Nobody did anything to me. I had some rough times in my life, but I still made choices as a result to better my life. Sometimes I made choices that made them worse. But guess what? In the end, I didn't make any mistakes because I'm right here, right now. It was just a series of choices that made me arrive to where I'm at today. So nobody makes us choose what it is we do, say, act, feel in any way. Ever. That's powerful stuff. The superpower of choice. But the even deeper lesson in it is owning the why we choose and whether we're in full alignment and integrity and taking personal responsibility for the choice. Are you going to, like, all in, man or woman up to the choice that you make? And seriously, like, go, I own this choice and I'm going all in. I'm not going to poo-poo. I'm going to follow through. Because when you make a choice, you can change your choice. Just keep that in mind. But when you make a choice, it should be so, like, in your being, this is the choice I'm making. It should be so, like, powerful. That's like that's deeply empowering in itself. Because when you know, you're like, that's your yes, it's a guttural yes. Yes. My life is predestined and I only have a free will of love or not to love. And ultimately, even not to love is a form of love too, because it always comes back to love, doesn't it? So it's like the thread of all of us is the deep gnosis, the Gnosis. And I've been speaking about how there's two types of knowing. There's a KNOW, which is the mind, the mental knowing, the intellectual, I have amassed knowledge. And then there's the gnosis knowing, the GNOW. Now that knowing is so deep in your being, you feel it in every cell of your being, your body, you are just wisdom integrated knowledge experience. Everything is who you are. It's not just you talking about it or that you learned something. It's the application, the integration into your experiences of life, and that's when it becomes your wisdom. So this choice making that we humans have to do on a daily basis, on a momentary basis, choosing your words carefully. There you go. Choice. Because the words you use, the words you choose, the words you choose to use, to speak, to think, they cast the spell of your life. They create your reality. And what you anticipate, you create. And that can be in your favor or not. Depends on your perception, because we live through our filters. So, interestingly enough, what you perceive and what you believe is your reality. It's all beautiful. It's all divine. It's just whether or not we're willing to be present to it all. So, I have some updates. I hope this is hitting some beautiful awarenesses within you. Because for me, the more I've sat with all the choices I've made in my life, I realize, wow, I have had times. Last night I was really sitting with it. I was like, here's a good example. Some people choose to escape reality, right? They use drugs. They use, whether it's a pharmaceutical, whether it's an herbal drug, which I don't even like to use the word drug for things that are from nature. Whether it's plants, whether it's shopping, there's all sorts of forms of escapism, addiction, distraction. When you choose to use something to alter your reality, it is either your medicine or your poison. And that's kind of how a choice is. It is either going to enhance your life, or it's going to detract and take away from it. And when it detracts and takes away from it is when you escape it. When you choose to not be present in that choice, see, this is where I mean by owning it. If you choose to do something, let's just say you take a drug, you do a plant medicine, and there are a lot of people who are finding ways to escape their lives by choosing things that may otherwise be a form of medicine and could enhance their life, can help them deepen their awareness and their presence in the moment. But because they choose it to escape, that becomes a demoting addiction. Whereas on the other hand, this is the polarity of life. If you are in integrity, you're owning and taking personal responsibility. You intention and you say, I know I'm taking this. And on the one hand, it could end up being my poison. I'm choosing it as my medicine. And when I choose it as my medicine, now I know when I take this, my purpose is to deepen my relationship to myself. Sometimes we intention something we want to glean, wisdom. Maybe we have a question. Maybe we're, universe, how can I deeper know myself? I'm just using examples. But then when you just pop a pill or do something and you're just trying to get out of your body, how is that serving you? So we all have to kind of weigh out the why and the how and the what we do when we make those choices. So those two examples, number one, taking a job just because it's an easy paycheck or I need to get by, got to make a buck, or even taking drugs or plant medicines or whatever it is, always be an awareness of the intention behind the choice that you just made and whether or not you're taking personal responsibility. Because that's huge. And I think that that's a major theme right now in the world, And what I was sitting with last night, because I was like, wow, most people don't acknowledge that everything is either for or against, in the direction of love or away from it, expanding, contracting, choosing to be empowered or disempowered, choosing to be healed or self-sabotage. And so, again, anytime you make a choice, you can polarize yourself. But if you can stay neutral and stay present and own the choice and go all in on that choice with your integrity, like I said before, this is my truth and this is what I feel, and I feel it in every being of my body. And that's the power of choice. Didn't even know I was going to talk about that to that depth. Because the theme that dropped in was last night with the change in personal responsibility. And so when I talk about my explant surgery, I have known for a very long time, as I've shared, that this was something I would eventually do, but I didn't know it would come so soon. And I spoke with the pathologist today because I wanted more information. I had called earlier this morning. It took a while. And I asked specifically about the tests that they run. See, now, this is why you need to ask questions and not assume. Because in this day and age, a lot of times when you ask questions, people are more willing to give you a general, I don't know, or, well, we just do routine tests. Like, it's like a brush off. I was like, why is it not like it used to be? It used to be, here's what we do. And so informative. Like, I come from a background of when it used to be customer service. The customer is always right, right? My mother used to say, for every one person that speaks up, there's at least 10 that don't. And I don't know when this changed, but within the last 10 to 15, 18 years, when I get on the phone with a customer service person, I get people who are like, well, you're the only one complaining. To me, that's insulting as a customer. And at the same time, I'm like, really? People talk this way to people? Like, the customer's always right. And I'm always kind on the phone. But if I'm not feeling I'm getting my questions answered properly and that I'm not getting the responses I should be, I'm the first person to say, listen, clearly you're unable to assist me in the way that I'm seeking. May I please speak to your manager or to a supervisor? It's not to get anybody in trouble. No, it's to get properly informed, to be able to ask questions. Because again, these days, I'm almost 100% certain that for every one person that complains, there's probably at least 100, if not more. Well, this is just generalizing, but this has happened to me more than once, where someone has actually said to me, well, you're the only one who's ever, you're the only one complaining. And I thought to myself, do they actually have that written down on a script for these people these days? Because I don't know. I've worked in telemarketing and I've worked customer service. I've worked IT desks and had to do, support. And I could never imagine responding in that way. And for the amount of money that I know that I used to make, I mean, it was pretty good money. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't like low pay. So I don't know what the story is with that. But it could also be because we're in more of a, I mean, there's been a flipping of the narrative and the dialogues between humans where instead of I was raised, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to you right now. This is the standard, reasonable, and old-fashioned way that used to communicate. It was, you know what, I don't have the answer to that. Instead of not wanting to admit I don't know, I don't know the answer to that question. Let me get back to you. Let me go ask someone who knows. Let me check, and I'll be right back with you. Or I will call you back. That's how I was raised. That's how I would answer a question. I have no problem admitting I don't have the answer. I'm not going to try to bullshit my way through things and try to act like, well, I know what I'm talking about. And then turn it around, which is a form of gaslighting, to make it sound like the other person's a crazy person. No, if a customer is asking a question, you should be able to have someone who gives you an educated response, not brush you off. And if you're not expecting that, then that's part of the self-worth issue we have in the world right now, where people don't feel worthy of even the simple answers to a question that is perfectly reasonable and in your right to know, especially when it comes to your finances. When you call up a bank, you can have fees removed. Speak kindly to the people. Hey, I'm calling, I'm hoping you can help me with something. When they call, you always repeat their name back to them. Hi there, Brooke. How are you today? How are you doing? Are you having a good day today? Say something lighthearted to make them smile, and you can hear a smile across the phone. And they go, you know what? I'm calling today because I've been a customer with this whatever for so long, and I'm hoping you can help me. And then you turn it around in such a way that they're like, wow, I can help someone. And then when they're helping you, you say, I've got this fee. I noticed, I didn't even notice it, maybe a couple weeks has gone by, whatever. I'm just using an example. Do you think you could have that removed? And 9 times out of 10, you can have done more than once. So it's not like you can just do this one time. I mean, if you forget, if you're habitual, just try to stay on your stuff, be responsible. But if you oversight, which I've had numerous times in my life, do you know for every person that doesn't call and have a fee removed, how much money these banks and institutions make off of us? Don't even get me started. And those are just a couple dollar fees, and most of them are charging you interest that's unnecessary, and fees, and they add on taxes that they're not supposed to, and everything else. So, and then at the end, you just say, you know what, you just really made my day. I really appreciate you. And if there's an opportunity to even say, is there anybody I can send a response, or I leave good feedback for you, boy, can you make their day. Of course they're going to want to help you. They'll even make notes in your file a lot of times, because believe it or not, they do. They take notes on your accounts. This person might have been a jerk. This person might. Never underestimate the power of kindness. And when you do good favor to another, that behavior is going to be rewarded. That's just the cycle of energy in life. When you show up with an open hand, you might find something placed in there you didn't expect. It's giving someone the opportunity to return the favor because of your good behavior. So back to the pathology. I had asked, what kind of tests do you run? Because I was told to call pathology. The nurse said what they do is they take the implants out and they send them to pathology. Now, I thought first they took them out and took the tissue around the implant out. I didn't think they needed the implants. That part never made sense to me. And so therefore, I turned around and I was like, okay, I'll just call pathology, and I'll just go straight to the horse's mouth, as we say. So when I was on the phone with the woman today, she explained to me, well, that they send them to us. Typically, we don't send them back, but if you want them, I'll put a note in your file to flag for awareness. They do keep them up to a few weeks in case they need to go back and test. Well, I'm thinking about it because my throat's getting a little dry. So they do hold on to them a little bit longer just in case they need to retest them or check them. I learned a lot on this phone call too, though. I said, well, what kind of tests do you run? Well, we only run tests if we feel we need to, like if there's a rupture and there's a leak, and we test it for chemicals and this and that. And I was like, okay. I said, well, is it possible that you would be able to test it for fungi, bacteria, mold, and any type of breast cancers or anything like that? And I mean, I have a list. And as I had this conversation with her, I realized to make a list for my surgeon anyway, which I was already anticipating doing. And she's like, well, no, we don't, unless we need to. And I'm thinking to myself, well, and what would indicate that? And she said the only thing is if there's any abnormal tissues, or like I said, if there's a rupture. So I said, okay, so how can I get a comprehensive full pathology report? She said you'd have to request it from your provider. All right, that's where I said, I'll go back to the doctor and I'll request that the doctor submit for it. And I told her that on the phone. I said, okay, so I understand. I appreciate you providing me all this information I was unaware of. I said, when I get to the, the day of surgery, what I'll do is I'll also have a list to go over with the doctor about all my concerns and the things that I'd like to have. And she said, it's very unusual that somebody wants their implants back. I said, well, the reason I want them back, number one, I paid for them. Just saying. Number two, I want to use them as an opportunity to teach. The other thing she shared with me, and this is the part a lot of people don't know, and I'm going to use her words exactly. She said, I want to let you know that if you do want them back, we have to inform you of the chemicals. And at first I got a little confused. I'm like, chemicals? Wait a minute. They tell you breast implants are safe to put in your body. Where's the chemical issue? And then she informed me what they do. This again doesn't make sense to me. Why not take the tissue away from the implant itself? But again, they're holding on to them in case they need to test them again. She said what they do is they preserve them in formaldehyde. Formaldehyde. If you don't know about formaldehyde, first off, she made it very clear. So I want every single one of you to be listening with both ears. Formaldehyde, I want to put an R in there. Formaldehyde is carcinogenic. The word carcinogenic means it's cancer causing people. It's toxic. And I'm shaking my head going, why are they still using carcinogenic stuff to preserve? And then how would they be able to test the tissue? This is my mind and my logic. And I started to have the conversation with her and I was like, okay, this is probably a little too much. I'm just sitting with the idea that you're putting it in a toxic chemical to preserve it. How do you test that? Anybody else out there see where I'm going with this? If you're going to preserve it, but then might have to test it again, wouldn't it then be tainted? Wouldn't it already be like now it's been compromised, so the tissue itself is absorbing carcinogenic formaldehyde, which means if you did test it for breast cancer or cancers or something, now you've got something carcinogenic seeped into it. So that would, to me, I would think it would mess up the testing. But hey, what do I know? This is just my logical mind. And given the fact that I know formaldehyde, remember when we were younger, those of you who also had biology class and you had to dissect animals, frogs, starfish, remember that smell? That was formaldehyde. And so I don't know about anybody else, but I grew up touching it, so it wasn't a big deal back then, but it's carcinogenic. Just saying. So we've all been exposed to all sorts of toxins, yet nobody's ever connected dots as to whether or not that might have caused us problems over the years. So I was very grateful to her, and I said, thank you so much for informing me today. I just learned a whole lot of stuff that I did not know about, right? Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. Formaldehyde, so many dissections in cadaver labs. Seriously, a lot of people don't know about that. And it makes you wonder, you're preserving bodies and tissues and organs and stuff. My mind's going, why would you preserve it in a toxic carcinogenic substance? If you're preserving it, now what you've done is also added chemical toxins to it. So you can't reuse it. You can't, how do you properly test for that? That's just me. I don't know. My mind has a whole lot of questions about a lot of things, and I go way deeper when I start curious mind. I'm like, huh. A lot of things I don't always say out loud, but anyway. So Brooke, the woman I spoke to today, was very helpful, and I'm very grateful to her. And I did say thank you because, again, if you don't ask the questions, you don't have the answers, and therefore you're not making a well-educated decision. And that's where the only person that suffers as a result of not making choices based on information. If you don't ask the right questions, see, it's up to you to make the choice to ask the questions. Just because you don't ask the questions doesn't mean you're safe. In fact, I would rather be over-informed than in the dark and blindly placing my body, my life, my everything in someone else's hands, because that's my choice. I choose to be well informed. So there you go. Choices, change, and personal responsibility. So that was that. Now, the fun part, bras. I got 4 bras. And I'm going to explain why I chose the bras I chose. First off, I talked about this in my last video. I'm a huge advocate for natural fibers, and I love cotton, hemp, bamboo, natural fibers. The closest, silk. Natural fibers are important because if you are wearing synthetics, and the same thing with having breast implants, that weakens your electromagnetic field. And I was sharing again with a girlfriend today. I said, I feel like taking out these synthetic sacs in my body are going to expand my electromagnetic field that much more. And as far as I'm concerned, I already know since I was a child that if I walk in a room, I've been that all eyes on me. And I know I have a presence about me. I just know it because I've experienced and witnessed the way people respond and react to me. And I just feel like, wow, when these are gone, can you imagine how much more like I'm going to, oh, because you take the synthetic out, you this is dampening my aura. This is dampening my battery, my electromagnetic charge, my whole energy body. And it's amazing to me that I'm just like really sitting with this going, wow, you take out the implants? Unstoppable, baby. That's how I feel. I feel like when the boobies are gone and they're back to natural, I'm going to be like, woo, woo, blinded by the light. It's kind of a joke. But so my spiritual name translates. It's Sundari Kirinkar. I can't make this stuff up because I've been the poker, the provoker, not on purpose. Because I am who I am, I tend to trigger people. And it's usually because they don't want to hear what I have to say. And that's okay. I am not responsible for that part. I've come to a very deep peace with myself that sometimes spirit does crazy stuff through me. My mother used to be able to pull things out of me that I would never say, and then she'd be triggered. And you know that I've talked about how your inner child, when it feels neglected and you're not giving yourself the attention you need and reparenting and loving and being nurturing to yourself, your inner child calls in a third party. It makes you say and do things. It makes other people, you end up in these conflicts. And I experienced this over the course of my life with my mother and so many other people. And then later people would say, well, Lana, you could have been a little bit better with your delivery, or you could have said things a different way. You know what? Spirit has a tendency to use me to wake others up in a way that's not by my choosing. Sometimes it comes out of me, and I've realized this, and then I've recognized where I felt judged as a result, and it wasn't that I was trying to be unkind or non-compassionate or not loving, because even still, it wasn't my intention to upset the person, but then it woke them up to something. It inspired or sparked something in them. It triggered them, because triggers are essentially bringing to the surface something that needs to be healed in that being, that person. And I brought that up because there was so many times with my mother where she would say something, and then all of a sudden I would say words that they're not even part of my vocabulary. And then she'd flip out on me and hang up, because my mother, some very heated conversations sometimes. And I'm like, wow. And over the years, I've worked on my communication style, and I am always going to be as kind as can be. But there are times, and I'm like, wow. And that's when I have to go, Divine, I know you use me. And in some ways, I swear. So, back to the bras. Booby holders, support bras. So I was saying, back to the electromagnetic field. The more natural the fibers and not synthetic, the better. And it's going to help the healing process, because it's energy. If you're wearing a bunch of synthetics, it's going to dampen your electromagnetic field and your ability to heal. Because what does the synthetics do is it attracts those other energies that dampen your your battery, your heart, your soul, your lungs, all of this. So the heart and the lungs. Lungs are the spirit, the breath of life, the source of all that is. The heart is your battery, is supercharged by the spirit, by your lungs. So we are free energy. We don't need energy. We are the energy. We are the harvesting. So I have 3 of the same bra, and it's mostly because, you know what? It's not even a label thing. It's just the fact that it's the only bra I know that's 100% cotton. There might be a little bit of elastin, but so these Fruit of the Loom is what, and I have these little bralettes, right? So like what's under here is just a simple, it's just a simple bralette. I love these things, but there's no hooks on it. And I want to make sure I have hooks so that I can put these on and they'll hold me in place so I can properly heal. And I went on some I went on some people's blogs and all that and read through what they recommended. And these came up, which I was like, good, because back in the day when I first had my breasts done, I actually had Fruit of the Loom. And I had this, not this exact same one because they've changed it a little bit. There is a little bit of a little like netting, look a little bit more fancy. It's a little bit more fancy. So when I put this on, my only concern is I did read that, with the gathering, the ruching could be a problem, but we'll find out. But essentially, I mean, I know I'm small. I'm a 34, 30. I might even be a 32 when this is all said and done, but we won't know till the very end result. So, what the heck? We'll put this on. The only concern I have is like right now, obviously I'm much bigger than I'm gonna be. And before I had my implants, I was an A to B cup, okay? So this is nice because number one, I know this is kind of comical because I'm putting this on top. Actually, we'll do it the other way. It'd be a lot easier to see too. I won't half-ass it. I'll choose to show you properly what I'm going to do here because it is a little warm with the hot light on me. Doo-doo-doo-doo. All right. Oh, I got a hair caught in my ring. Oh, hello. Okay. So, like I said, one of the main reasons I'm having this done is this breast here sits 3 inches lower than this one. Because when the doctor stitched me up, he didn't just stitch the side that I was concerned about. He went underneath and said, your nipples were off. I'm like, listen, if my nipples are here and one's down here, we women, we go like this. Look, I fixed it. Now we're even. But when the cup, the actual underside of the breast is lower, you can't hide that shit. Why didn't he just stitch under the other? I don't know. Whatever. It's annoying. Okay, so this one here, unlined triangle bralette, lightweight and wire-free, because you don't want wires. Wires aren't good for you either way. It's cotton, which is the main reason I got it. Full coverage. Oh, they have other bras in these pictures. That's what they got in here. Ah, I like bras that don't have a bunch of stuff on them. I'm not trying to, I have a lot of fancy bras, don't get me wrong. So this is essentially 95% cotton and 5% spandex. So there is a little synthetic, but in comparison to all the other stuff that I was looking at, I was like, oh, what is it? I might have to, I know, nipples are no big deal. It's so annoying. Okay, the reason I like this too is there's a little bit more, oh good, this will most likely fit perfectly. And like I said, I mean, I know I'll heal quickly. I'm just being overly cautious because I would rather be overly cautious than underly cautious, if that's a word. So, because we're going to be flat, all this stuff will be gone. Yeah. This is the white one. And I got this in 3 colors because I thought, what the heck? Chances are I'll end up liking them. And, I'm changing up my whole look after this. I'm excited. See, I get to reinvent my whole wardrobe and lifestyle. I mean, there'll be some stuff that I'll be able to still wear. I'm going to find out real quickly what I can no longer wear, too. Okay, so we got white. White because I wear white all the time, as you can tell. I got a pretty pink. The pink I couldn't help. I'm like, I love pink. Pink is one of my favorite colors. I don't think I liked pink as much growing up. I love purple. Purple, oh yeah. So we have the pink one. It's like a blush. Very pretty blush pink. So, isn't that pretty? Same style. They had it in a heather gray. They also had it in black. I didn't want black. I mean, if down the road I want black, I can always go and get black. But I don't wear enough black, and I used to wear black and browns all the time. I was very much, back in my earlier years, I wore a lot of earthy colors. I wore a lot of brown, tan, nude. I wore a lot of burgundy and wine, right? I know, there's so much more I can wear. You're right. And it is a pretty pink. I'm really happy with my choices. And then I really like this, I think this is considered, it was either, I think they labeled it as sand colored, sand or nude. But either way, I really liked this one. So I'm like, hey, you know what? And they're all three, same style, just 3 colors. So that was those. Now I got one bra that is not 100% cotton. I'm kind of like, this might end up going back, but it came highly recommended from people who had explants. My only concern, and I'll show you because I did open this up. This is considered a sports bra, and it's a Brabic women's post-surgical fit for, and it's a 32, it says 32B, C, D, or 34A. So we'll see. I already don't care for the fact that it's that really synthetic. I mean, it's soft, but, and it has a zipper. So instead of, and I do like the idea of a zipper, to be totally honest with you. Mostly because that's a little bit easier than having a hookie. But the hookies are really easy too, so those shouldn't be so difficult. So let's see what this looks like, because I was looking at it going, okay, that's the back. And I just put it around. Not that I'll be able to put my arms up over my head for a little bit. So it hooks here. My only concern with this is that there is booby spots here, okay? Now, for me, I'm really going to need it to be flat. This is the one reason I'm kind of like, I don't know. This could be a problem. So it's cool. It's soft. A lot of people talked about it being soft. It may still require something in between on all these bras, because I don't want the seams up against my scars, or my where the incisions are made. I also don't know the details of how they're going to have the drain tubes. So the drain tubes, if they're, and that's kind of a weird thing to me, because I don't know how long they're going to be in there for. So if I have drain tubes hanging out of my boobs, that essentially means there's going to be a hole in my body where the drain tubes are, right? Has anybody ever had this happen? Let me know in the comments. So if I have 2 drains coming out of both of my breasts, this is just my mind again doing that crazy thing that I said. This is one of the reasons why I'm glad I didn't look as much. Because if I have 2 drain tubes, that means essentially there's going to be open incisions where the little tubes are coming out of, because it's got a drain. Okay, well, we'll see how that works out. So I'm going to just show this again, because as I take this off, the big concern I have is, see how this is? See how puckered that is? That's a lot of boobage. And I know how my boobs were before. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure I'll be swollen afterward for a bit. I don't know how long. You know, you don't know till you know. But, and, oh, look at that. There's a little thing on the back. What's that all about? Oh my goodness, that's weird. They have like a little hooky thing that goes behind the zipper. That's kind of awkward. Okay. Well, fortunately, it's not going to come off. So again, it's just a weird, I don't know. I mean, it came highly recommended, but these are women who probably had boobs before. And so when you see this, see, there's all this extra material in where the boobage would be. And I'm sure that feels nice and soft if you have a lot, but I don't have a lot of tissue on the up part of my booby, okay? So like I said, that is the Braybic post-surgical bra, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going to keep that just based on what I just shared with you. Out of all of them, of course, this was the most expensive, and I figured, you know what, I'm just going to order with a couple, and I can always return them later. I'm certain I'm going to be fine with the Fruit of the Loom because I have a history by using their brand, and I like them. Sometimes the cheapest or sometimes the best. I'm just going to say that right here. And it's been my experience that right? And maybe another thing to ask my surgeon, although he never mentioned anything about it. I mean, in the past when I had my surgeries before, you just got, like I said, I had the Fruit of the Loom style. It was less of the fancy up here, but it was pretty standard, and it kept me compressed because it's really about making sure that the breasts are compressed against the chest and they can heal and fully adhere back to the body and all that and heal. That's the big thing, right? Healing the air pockets and not leaving any spaces and all that. So, I mean, the doctor, I doubt they'll be giving me a bra because they didn't mention anything about it. I've never been strapped up and wrapped up for a period of time after any of those surgeries. I mean, yeah, they're going to pad you up and send you home, but I don't know that I'm going to bring a bra just in case I need one because I'll be prepared because that's just how I roll. So yeah, that's where I'm at today and wanted to share an update on that. The other night I was laying in bed going, oh my gosh, I got less than a week before I go under the knife. And then of course I'm back to the whole, God, everybody just pray for me. I just hope I can, all I have to do is do a spit test. I have not once in 2 years, even more than, I don't know when the last time I was ever sick. And the idea that I even have to have the routine you-know-what test, oh my God, it's obnoxious to me. Healthy as a fiddle. And I just have a lot of skepticism behind the whole, there's no need to stick something up my nose, first off. I don't want a deviated septum. I don't want to puncture my third eye. They actually, back in the days, the Egyptians would puncture up the pineal gland. That was actually torture for slaves, and it was for submission. And from some of what I've heard, speaking of carcinogens, that the coating of those swabs that have been used were coated in carcinogenic toxins. And so therefore, you puncture and then you got issues. I don't like that at all. I don't know about anybody else. I mean, when they test for strep throat, they stick a swab behind your throat. Even that's silly to me. It's like, if it's in your saliva, spit test should be sufficient, people. Can we be logical for once? You don't need to be a rocket scientist, you don't need to be a doctor, and you definitely don't have to have a degree to have logic and figure things out. And some people out there don't understand. Some of us have done more research than the people that have gone to school for years that only focused on certain things that they were told they had to learn. Most of it memorization, right? Like how many of us went to school? If you just memorize this and regurgitate it, then you'll be okay. And then when you get out, you're like, I never used that again. At what point in your life did you apply any of that on repeat memorization bullshit? Other than languages, other than maybe some mathematics, right? Even history is not taught the way it used to be. They don't even teach the necessary history. They don't teach us the true laws that support you and I. No, they don't do that at all. At least I don't remember. Let's talk about wars. Yeah. So I hope you found this entertaining and inspiring. I hope I tickled you a little with my little bras. They'll be littler for sure. I hope that you can reflect upon your choices and the personal responsibility that you have and the moral obligation to when you make a choice in life. to be fully in alignment with it and know your why and what you do with that choice. Going all in on that choice and not half-assed. Don't be ignorant of it, because ignorance is not bliss. Ultimately, you have a moral responsibility to every choice that you make. Yeah. So I trust everything's going to be okay, and I'll keep you informed, and I'll be sharing more information. Share these videos. If this inspired you, if you got something out of it, please click the share, click the like, because if the algorithm doesn't see likes and comments, and put comments in the comments, apparently, I don't know what happens to my live comments. And make sure you subscribe, click the notification bell, follow all my social media, I guess. I don't know. I'm doing more here. I'm kind of playing a little bit here and there, but as you know, I've kind of taken it back a notch because I'm working on this, and I'm going through the waves of emotion. I'm riding the tides, you know. This is what we should all be doing. Whatever's going on in your life, I trust that you're making the choices that support you, as I am for myself. So I hope whatever I do and whatever I share, it inspires you. And by that inspiration, it empowers you to make the choices that you need to for you. So lots of love. So many prayers and blessings to you. And I'll see you on the next video on my latest update. Sweet dreams and good night. Love you.